All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Beyond the White Noise Conspiracy Corner. It's our brand new show. And tonight we have on the man behind the curtain, Stephen Foy. We also have on the creepy little cretin that's hanging in the chat room, Morris Gunnery, and the one and only Ed Becker, award winning author. Tonight, what we are going to do, we are going to hit quite a few topics on the conspiracy theories. There are plenty of them out there, whether you believe in them or not. They do exist. The way I look at it as for every conspiracy theory out there, there's a basis of truth. Whether it gets spread out over the year, over whether it gets spread out or whether it doesn't, there's always a basis of truth to the conspiracy theories. I'm Kurt Logsdon. I am going to be, I guess, the ugly mug you're going to see right now in there. But what I want to do before we do anything, I want to read this article. It was passed on to me by Stephen Foy today, who actually sent me this article that it kind of made me think. You know, growing up in the D.C. area, basically, especially during the Cold War, we were always told we're at ground zero. We are at ground zero. Should the Russians come in or the Soviets come in and bomb us, we're done. We're flying. I grew up across the street from a Nike missile base, and which basically were set up all around the D.C. area to shoot down Russian bombers. So it's what happens when you grow up in there, and also you do learn a little bit about what's going on. Now, as the United States, things are getting a little heated with the Russians right now, and I'm going to say that to that little man, Vladimir Putin, who's got that small man syndrome. What I'm going to do before I even get into that, I'm going to read something to you that actually blew my mind. Senior NATO official claims we will be at war by summer. All right, ladies and gentlemen, where are we at? May right now? So give it a couple months. We are going to be at war with either China or more than likely Russia, depending on this. Let me read this to you guys and tell me what you think. Last week, former NSA intelligence analyst John Schindler posted a disturbing tweet statement that one could assume to be a reference toward Russia. Schindler wrote, said a senior NATO, non-U.S. GoFo to me today, will probably be at war this summer. If we're lucky, it won't be nuclear. Let that sink in. All right. Who is John Schindler? As a 10-year veteran of the NSA, he was in the news a bit more when Snowden was making headlines. He used to be a professor at the U.S. Naval War College and is currently a frequent contributor to the Business Insider. According to his biography on Business Insider, he teaches class on security strategy, intelligence, terrorism, and he has collaborated closely with government agencies who would probably prefer he did not mention them. It's safe to say that Schindler probably brushes shoulders with high-ranking officials from time to time, and so his tweet should be taken seriously. It is frightening to think that members of NATO may actually be preparing for and expecting a war with Russia this summer. But unfortunately, it is not all that surprising given some of the activity that's been seen around the world. It is safe to assume superpowers like US, Russia, and China are preparing something big. And noted some of the provocative moves that have been going on around the world lately. Let me say provocative in the sense, before I move on, of sense of Russian bombers flying into airspace of, let's say, different airspaces around the world, U.S. included, not quite in our airspace, but tweaking the edges just to play a little game with us. All right. NATO powers are also taking part in one of Europe's largest ever jet fighter drills. From today, with the United States, the United Kingdom, Switzerland, the Netherlands, Germany, France, Finland, Norway, and Sweden all involved in the 12-day exercise. Global Times states a war it's inevitable with Washington does not hold its demands that Beijing stop building artificial islands in the South China Sea. Why would they be building artificial islands to fly bombers off of to also station some of their troops? If the United States' bottom line is that China has to halt its activity, then a U.S.-China war is inevitable in the South China Sea, the newspaper said. The intensity of the conflict will be higher than what people usually think of as friction. Friction basically meaning flying into airspace, a few words spoken through diplomatic ends, and a couple threats here, a couple threats there, but it might be a little more than what we expect. Last week, CNN revealed how China's Navy has reportedly issued warnings to U.S. surveillance planes flying over the South China Sea. All right. Well, these sorts of warnings came and go all the time. That in this kind of scary, the fact that we now have in the world very high-ranking officials assume nuclear war is right around the corner and means, should we be very concerned? Wars rarely, if ever, happen out of the blue. There's always quite rumors of wars before the real deals come to pass. Okay. And what basically, that kind of leads us into something that Stephen Foy basically brought up with me is the JADE HELM issue. Steve, can you tell us about that?
Yeah, certainly. The Jade Helm is something that we've talked of for quite some time now. It was supposed to start on the 15th of July, lasting a full 6 weeks, I think, or 8 weeks, to the 15th of September. It's basically a military exercise involving various forces in the United States, your homeland force, like the police forces and stuff like that, in the states that it's involved in. And it's basically a military training exercise, but it's quite a big one. And when you take into consideration that there's a lot of them happening around the world at the minute, with NATO, Russia and China doing joint military exercises in the Mediterranean Sea. And there's also one that I come across yesterday, which I think I told Ed about, called Radar Focus, which is Colorado, I think it was. It's meant to be it's meant to be even bigger than Jade Helm, even bigger again. But that's actually going to a military manoeuvres site, so that appears to be more of a training exercise in that sense. But Jade Helm's got so many people wound up and asking questions this week. It's dominated the news. Every time you go on and you look for something, it's the top of the list. And the one thing that stands out for me all the time is that whenever you get exercises like this, it raises the possibility for false flag issues. And that's a very different matter. You know, you talk about, for instance, 9/11 and various other stuff that's happened in the past. But that is what raises the issues for me. And there's so many of them happening right across the world at the minute, and including in Europe with the biggest NATO fighter jet drill, including our forces, as well as many other countries in Germany, Spain, France, Italy, Switzerland, Sweden, to name a few. But it's frightening, it really is.
So you see something kicking off basically out of this?
I don't know. It's very hard to judge. Personally, myself, I don't think so. If I'm honest, I don't think there will be at the minute. But it's got the potential to, and that's what the scary thing is. It's got the potential to kick off, and that's the thing. I mean, it just so happens that the 9/11 happened, for instance, the people on that morning were doing a military exercise that morning and stuff like that, and it's always been a flag for me whenever something like that happens. It's got a potential to cause other stuff. So for me, it's got me concerned, but not overly worried. I don't think there's going to be any sort of major conflict. Russia's probably the most unpredictable at the minute, as you know, with the Ukraine situation, obviously. But apart from that, at the moment, it just seems to be bubbling under the surface. But we'll see.
Jade Helm here in the States isn't exactly what I call conspiracy because it's right in your
No.
face.
Yeah.
It's right in your face. It's a mystery, and I got it firsthand from our police here in Missouri because we do have a number of armored vehicles, Army vehicles here in our town, in Springfield. And I got it firsthand from our police that they're not informed much about Jade Helm, but they were told that their job is to protect the citizens.
All right. Okay.
And that's kind of, well, it's kind of frightening because they were told that in the context of Jade Helm. So if the Army should do something, they're told to function on behalf of the citizens. So, I say mystery because we have no idea what the hell they're going to do, and they're going to infiltrate us. There's going to be a lot of night activity.
Yeah.
The last I saw, there were at least 10 states involved.
Texas being the bad guy. I heard that Texas was the one they're going to focus in as being the bad guy. So all you Texas people in Texas, you're in trouble.
Yeah, well, Texas ain't the only. One of the reasons I think they're spreading this Jade Helm out is because on a recent poll, their studies were 24 of our states would be in favor of seceding from the Union. So we have a huge national problem with patriotism and with dissension. But conspiracies aren't what they used to be. I mean, Kurt was correct in his earlier statement. At one time, I'm old enough that I've seen so many conspiracies. And it used to be that your definition was correct, that two people collaborate to do more than one person collaborates to do something illegal. That's today is done in many ways, but with our media, no one gives a crap. I mean, it's much like we talked about 9/11. When you see a crash site, and I've seen crash sites in my lifetime, and there's no plane, no plane parts, no luggage, no debris, no seats, no bodies. It's like they're telling it's an in your face. This is our story, and you're going to accept it.
Yeah.
And then they make a movie that makes anyone who makes noise sound unpatriotic, because Americans said go get them, and they were going to try to save the plane.
Yeah.
Where the hell is the plane? I mean, was it atomized?
Do you mean the ill-fated "Let's roll" comment? Was it apparently?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, today someone who starts yelling conspiracy no longer has to be a theorist. You're either a whistleblower or an outraged citizen, I believe. Yeah. I think, the Kennedy assassination was a theory where they left little clues and misdirections and things like that. But very few people know that we had a select committee on assassinations. It convened for 3 years. Mm-hmm. They found extra ballistics, they found extra witnesses, and they turned over a paper to the Justice Department in 1980, January, that said it was absolutely a conspiracy, investigate it and go after some of these people. And the Justice Department just put it aside.
Just buried it.
And to this day, you'll hear people debating the Oswald theory as if the Select Committee never met, and millions of American dollars were not spent on this committee. And my theory is that people just love conspiracies. Don't you dare take their conspiracy away from them.
Yeah.
Because they're enjoying it. Even though people say, hey, it's not a conspiracy any longer. Too many conspiracies. If you're my age, I've got an advantage because I've seen too many in my lifetime. I mean, there was a time.
You are quite a book of knowledge, Ed. I must admit that.
Yeah, I mean, in the 70s, I can remember arguing with people over phone tapping. Yeah. Our phones are being tapped, and then it came out in the late 70s that not only are phones being tapped, there's a 7-story building in Canada where all communication goes through, and it basically gives red flags wherever certain words are said. So it was like, guess what? The 70s phone tapping was not a conspiracy. All right. When we came to email, 20 years ago or so, everybody was arguing over, oh, the government's going to read our emails, you know. And people said, bullshit, they can't do that, you know. And they'd get in violent arguments. Well, today, we know that they're reading our emails.
Edward Snowden happened then, and then that was it.
Yeah, I mean, they're recording our emails, you know, so that's a conspiracy that was absolutely correct. There was an argument maybe 20 years ago about us turning into a police state. Well, there's no doubt that that's a fact today. That wasn't a conspiracy. That was just some people blowing the whistle, or they were outraged and they were bringing the truth to the surface.
Yeah.
You know, in the 90s, when they came out with the cell phones, which were huge, they had a big case that you put it in, and the thing weighed. It was like a car battery you carry around with you.
Mine's still like that.
Well, that's when the conspiracy people came out and they said they're going to track you. They're going to track you with the cell phone, and you know, by and large, the population said bullshit. You know, no one's tracking anybody. Well, now that we all have cell phones, and it's very common. I mean, we just watch any television program, and yeah, you put off a GPS signal.
Yeah.
And yes, you are being tracked. So it went from conspiracy. I've seen so many things go from conspiracy to fact.
Yeah, there's quite a few though.
You know, and then you do have some certain conspiracies, like I don't know if you heard of the black site in Chicago.
I've heard of black sites, but I've not that particular one, no.
For decades, there was a rumor that there was a black site in Chicago. People disappeared.
Yeah.
People may have been tortured, even maybe possibly murdered. And now it came to light, and it's been exposed that there is a black site in Chicago. And it's a building on Holman Avenue.
Yeah.
And some say it's existed since Al Capone.
Since when? Yeah. So Al Capone?
Yeah, they say Elliot Ness was the first one to do it, to create this building. And they'll actually take a prisoner in Chicago, erase him off the books even after he's booked, and send him to the black site. He just disappears. So that's you know, given a choice of Guantanamo or the Chicago black site.
Gitmo, anything?
I choose Gitmo because I know Chicago well, and no, I don't want to go to their black site. But there are legitimate conspiracies, but when you have something where they're doing it in your face,
yeah,
okay, JADE HELM, it's in your face, okay? We're going to take the military, we're going to dispense it across a number of states, we're going to infiltrate your population, we may try to influence your population or exhibit some control.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing stuff in a clandestine manner, and we're just not going to tell you what the hell we're doing, because we don't have to, and we don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Well, if you're my age, all right, I don't want to sound like Methuselah or something like that, but we didn't take that shit when I was young. I mean, we stopped a war, Vietnam.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, as an old guy, I look around and I see our troops in all these countries with the highest suicide rate they've ever had in the history of our armed forces. They're basically imprisoned. And I say that because they can sign up for 2 years, but the government can say, no, you're not going home for another 2 years. Or they can call you back and say, we want you for another 2 years. They can manipulate you at will. Well, if there's a reason to start protesting for the abuse of our armed services, now is the time, people. I mean, we did it in the 60s, and we were heard. But it seems like even though people put all this patriotic stuff on Facebook, no one wants to write emails. And I've written a lot of people and said, hey, Write your congressman, write people who have influence, and tell them, bring our boys home.
Yeah.
You know, we have not declared war, and they're
they're certainly not going to look at a Facebook group page or whatever with so many 100,000 likes for the same cause. They're not going to take that seriously because it's a social media site.
You can go to whitehouse.gov.
Yeah.
And you can write out your complaint or your problem or whatever it is that's bothering you, and you push a button. It goes to the officials in your state, and then you can choose another button to send it to the whole of Congress.
Yeah.
And we should be doing that. And I mean, this is going to eventually lead into fracking, and this is one where people should be in arms. I mean, they should just be in arms when it comes to fracking. But the one thing that I basically believe, and I'm holding some papers that I can't divulge, all right, or else there'd be a helicopter here and a drone hitting my fucking house. All right, but this was written 20 years ago, okay, and I'm just going to take a paragraph of it to give you an idea. Now, this is 50-something pages. It's a briefing to a certain group of people, okay, and this is one paragraph. It deals with mind control. Through the years of testing, the administration and saturation of certain chemicals and biogens within the world's population bases, these modern methods' ratios of success are almost absolute. Chemical and polypharmaceutical saturation has been achieved over the past 20 years of implementation with this purpose in mind, and it is achieved through purposeful, covert introduction into the population areas. In some cases, this is achieved by deliberate, overt introduction through the exposure of consumption on behalf of the population base in the everyday usage of public water supplies, airborne pollutants, and chemical agents in a wide variety of foodstuffs. Okay, we're being dosed. Now, in this report, they talk of a successful test that they did in California. This report's 20 years old.
Yeah.
And when I read it, I laughed because they came up with, there's a whole bunch of programs that I could list. You mentioned MK Ultra, which is like the oldest, and that's surfaced. I've got 12 more that I don't even know if I should mention because I'm not sure if they're publicly known, and I don't want to get shot, all right? But it talks about the combination of radio control and chemical to control the population. And in this report, their main problem was, now just take this back to 1994, they didn't know how to disperse the radio waves to the public. They could get the chemicals in their water system, and you've probably seen planes overhead that leave chemtrails.
Yeah, I have, yeah.
Okay. Now, people would like you to believe that has to do with HAARP, that they're changing the weather. Well, they're not changing the weather by spraying the population.
No.
You know, so to me, that's bullshit, you know. But this report, their problem was that they can find it easy to dose the people and have different reactions, so they can create different reactions. They can make us very docile. They can make us excited. They can even make us ill.
Yeah.
But their problem became we can't get the radio waves out there that we need to control the mass population. Because what they showed is a picture of like a cell tower, and they said they couldn't build cell towers all over the United States because people will know what the hell is going on. Well, for some crazy reason, all of a sudden we have a proliferation of cell phones. Now everybody's got cell phones.
Yeah.
Well, now there's cell towers everywhere.
These cell towers, like you just said, yeah, everywhere.
Yeah, now there's cell towers everywhere, and there's no problem with them hitting us with radio waves and interacting. And I wish I could read this whole thing because it is kind of humorous in places. It gives the reason why they're pushing why the war on drugs, let's say, has failed when it's come to ecstasy, methamphetamine, and cocaine.
Yeah.
Because those drugs actually enhance the effect that the government wants on our personalities. The ones that interrupt the effect are basically marijuana and opiates.
They're the ones that trying to stop you from using.
But their side note is that the population who's on marijuana or on opiates really isn't going to be a problem anyway. They're going to be too screwed up to know what the hell's
They're just happy with, oh yeah, that's fine, I'll just happy with that.
But, I'm sorry?
I'm just saying that they're the ones that are just letting life sort of like drifting past them by type of thing. Oh, that's fine.
But before I get to fracking, I mean, that's my feeling as an old geezer, is that people, you know, even my kids come over, and my kids are in their 40s and 30s, and I get pissed off. It's like I tell them something, and they say, "Yeah, what can you do about it?" You know, yeah, that's the way it's going to be. And then they're saving up for their iPhone 97 or something, and it's like, don't you guys see what the hell is happening? I just find it amazing. You know, so it's very frustrating to me as an old citizen, because I knew what the world was like in 1960 and what it is today.
Yeah.
And the difference is, I mean, today we had a bit on our news the other night, and my wife doesn't, Marcia doesn't catch it always. She likes to believe in just goodness. But it turned out there was a woman that was abused, and a meter reader came by, and he caught a glimpse of it, of the man hitting this woman and her screaming for help. So the meter reader called the police, and we had a big police standoff. No big deal. We have 10 of those a day, okay? But they interviewed the meter reader, and I know he's getting slapped on top of his head, because in front of the camera, he basically talked about the fact that they are trained. These are electric meter readers.
Yeah.
They are trained to observe every piece of property and to report anything that they see that's unusual.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for marijuana growing and everything.
Yeah, if they see too many.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all the public utilities are trained to basically keep a watch over you, from your mail lady to your meter reader, and we're being watched. And you know, I don't worry much about it, 'cause I got a pacemaker. They know where the hell I'm at all the time.
You're tracked, Ed. You're
tracked.
tracked.
I'm tracked, and I have to be very careful, because they can actually push a button, and I'd be dancing in the streets with electricity. So I have to be very careful. But it does get to me when I read about fracking.
Well, just before you get to fracking, Ed, I just had a question there from Aaron, who's watching, and posted in the chat room. He's asked,
Sure.
what is the true amount of cell phone masts or the placebo masts to help with mind control?
The true amount?
True amount of cell phone masts, you know.
Actually, I don't know. I don't know. I do know that, you know, I had to chuckle, because when you see the commercials here in the United States, let's say for Verizon,
yeah,
and they show the whole United States covered, okay? They have the biggest coverage, okay? They're probably under some type of secondary government contract. And
am I right in saying they provide most of your internet coverage over there as well? Wireless internet coverage?
Yeah,
Is that right?
And from a government standpoint, that's referred to as deep black cover.
Yeah.
Where even the contractor doesn't know their true purpose when they're doing it. But yeah, they can put off a signal, and the report I have is very alarming. So if somebody read it, the thing that really interested me is the fact when you get to read something that's 20 years old, and where they're talking about implementing something, and now I'm reading it, and the shit is all done. It's implemented. It's here. There's cell towers everywhere. They're spraying the population. I mean, Marcia and I watched the planes over Springfield. We're surrounded by wilderness. We've got 100,000 trillion miles of Mark Twain forest around us.
Yeah. Sorry, Aaron's just made it a bit clearer. He wasn't quite clear before. What he meant to have said was, do you think that there's fake masts for the likes of mind control in amongst the ones that they use for the cell phone coverage, or do you think they're one and the same?
Fake masks?
Masts, phone masts. Do you think they're fake ones?
I don't know. I don't know. I know that there's two types of radio waves that they're going to send at us, and they have sent at us.
Yeah.
One is I don't know what the megahertz are, but it's low to the ground. They started developing that actually in the 50s. If they put the radio wave too high in the air, it can be intercepted. And they found out that there's a wave that they can send that's a few feet above ground, very, very low wave, that's safe, and they can also use that. The problem they've had with it is that there are people who have heard it. They hear this low hum. I don't know why, but they can hear the low hum. And but the cell towers, I mean, now they've sprouted up like oil wells all over the place.
Well, that's true, yeah.
But it makes me wonder, because I've never been a real activist. So it's not like I'm going to pick up a sign in the 60s. I did attend a number of things. I got caught in a riot once. You don't want to do that. Let me tell you, you don't want to ever be part. You do not want to be part of mass hysteria. It's ugly. It's frightening, and it's become survival. But we did voice our opinions, and anybody that would listen, we were unhappy. Okay, our friends were going to Vietnam, and they were coming back in body bags, and we didn't like it. And my best friend is blind. The guy in front of him stepped on a landmine, and my friend survived. He's got 1,000. He still has shrapnel coming out of him every now and then.
Really? Even after all this?
Oh yeah. So I mean, Vietnam was an ugly war. We didn't declare war, and the population was being abused, and we just didn't take that shit. Now today, everybody sits back and they just look at it and they say, if somebody would have told us in 1964 that the president is going to sit down on a Saturday, having breakfast, and sign an executive order where he can grab all our bank accounts, there would have been hell to pay. I mean, the mayor would have had to run for the fucking hills. The congressman, they would have had to close their doors and fly to some other country. They can take our bank accounts? Bullshit. Well, Obama just did that, okay? And this year, and he can relocate you and take your house in our country.
Just skipping back to the JADE HELM thing as well, along them lines, along the martial law. I've read somewhere, I don't know whether it was last week or the week before, he actually passed a bill whereby he can implement the martial law.
We don't have. I was watching a video, Steve, on that. I apologize. I don't mean to interrupt.
No problem. Yeah.
Those two videos of that guy who was part of the special forces.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
We don't have enough or anybody in the military anymore based on battalions that to even put somebody in a martial law. And this guy was a special. He goes, listen, the guys in the military do not want to kick down your door and take everything down. They said basically we don't have enough people, military-wise, police-wise, to put this country under martial law, let alone we are the most well-armed country. We're one of the most well-armed countries in the world. Personal arms, that the good luck trying to get us under martial law if that's the case. And that's just my take on it right there.
I agree. I actually believe that if you watch our media is aimed at creating friction. Mm-hmm. It wants racial friction.
I think that goes with all media, even like that over here as well.
Sells.
No, they've got an agenda. I mean, they want us to hate the police. They want us to hate each other of color. They definitely want us to hate minorities.
Yeah.
So they beat us with the gay issue, and they're using the gays as a weapon, and they're using all kinds of things to keep this friction going. Meanwhile, we have a country that has bought more bullets and guns in the last 6 years than they did in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's armed. Marsha's armed. Marsha's got 2 guns. I mean, we like Bonnie and Clyde when we go out, you know. Nobody better mess with us, or they're going to get a hole blown in them. But the whole population is that way, and what I see is that they're not preparing for Marsha. They're preparing for a civil war. They're preparing for a war amongst the population, and they're prepared to clean up afterward.
Yeah.
I believe that's the frightening thing to me, is that no, they're going to step out of the way. You know, they're going to step out of the way. They're going to much like they did in Ferguson. You know, if someone throws a garbage can through my front window and then comes in and starts grabbing my stuff, they might as well have their will in their hand because they're dead. Okay, I'm going to shoot them.
Yeah.
Now, for some reason, the police allowed a group of people to do that to Ferguson. They went into the CVS pharmacy. Now, here's a pharmacy
that was Baltimore.
Well, they did one of the pharmacies in Ferguson, but Baltimore too. Anyhow, here's a cache of drugs that a drug dealer would salivate over.
Oh yeah.
And the people go in and just grab them, and the police don't do a damn thing. They're taking the power. They're taking the power from the police. Now, what I've heard recently, which alarmed me, was, and it came down from Obama to the local police departments. I'm not sure if other states got it or if it's just Missouri, because we've been having problems. But my son-in-law was told that the police, and he's been on the force now for 5 years, he's a hostage negotiator, that they're looking to get them out of their normal uniforms, take away their body armor, to give them a softer appearance, to give them a more public-friendly appearance. Well, his attitude was, if that happens, he quits. You know, the day he leaves, because even in Branson and Springfield, he's had too many occasions where that stuff has saved his life.
Yeah, we've had another question from Aaron O'Rourke in the chat room on YouTube. Ed. He said, with the racial minorities, you said the government wants us to hate them. Is this why they seem to get preferential treatment?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Good point.
No, absolutely. I mean, I got to be careful what I say now, because I don't want to get any. I don't want to get any hate mail, and I really don't. I don't hate anybody, or I don't wish anybody any ill will.
Yeah.
But they use these people as a weapon to aggravate you. You know, they're aggravating you. Let's give them special privileges. And I always argue, especially here in the United States, people no longer want to do their homework. They don't want to read the history of the country. They don't want to read about the Constitution. Okay? Yeah. We're a Christian country. The signers of the Constitution, there may have been a couple atheists in there who probably wouldn't have admitted it, but there was no other people on our Constitution other than Christians, including 3 ministers and a doctor of theology.
Yeah.
When they said, "In God we trust," and they debated the separation of church and state, there was only one reason for that. Only one reason. Yeah. And that reason was so that we wouldn't turn into Europe, where a pope or a cardinal could run a country. So if you were a member of clergy, you could not serve in government. That was their purpose, if you read their notes and you see how it was assembled. There was no question that we were a Christian country. And for some reason, in polls today, it'll always be over 80%. Somewhere between 80 and 87% of us are Christians. Now, we're like Baskin's 52 flavors, because you got Jehovah's Witnesses, and you got Lutherans and Protestants and Catholics, and Unitarians and evangelists, but we all believe in Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
What pisses me off is when I hear about somebody objecting and saying, no, we can't have the Ten Commandments on municipal grounds. Well, it's not Christians. It's not 80-some% of us. It's this 20% that's nebulous. It's vague. They don't say who they are, okay? But there's an objection.
Yeah.
You cannot have a democracy. You cannot have a democracy and cater to minorities. You can't. Majority rules. If you don't run a clear-cut majority rules, you're going to take your democracy and you're going to flush it. And that's what's happening in America. We're saying, okay, this is what we believe in. This is what America stands for. Except for these people over here, it's okay. We're going to let them be, and we're going to give them. I mean, how the hell can someone who's never paid taxes get a tax refund?
That's a good point, though. I've seen you posted about that the other day, didn't you?
They posted that they were going to give some illegal aliens tax who never contributed. They're going to get a tax refund.
Becker's belief, though.
Hey, Ed, let's jump to fracking real quick. I mean, you are the man when it comes to fracking. I mean, I did my research, but I was like, I was watching these videos, I was reading, and for some reason, I mean, the only thing I got out of it was sand. For some strange reason.
No.
For some strange reason, that's what these videos keep saying. Sand would be placed down there. I don't know, dude.
Let me start by telling you, and you may or may not believe this, all right? But
all right, I believe it.
I have not drank tap water since 1977.
Oh, that's healthy, actually. That is healthy.
Okay. Now, neither has Marcia. Neither have my children, as long as they were under my roof, or if they come here. I do not let them drink the tap water.
Okay.
All right? Now, it's because of things I found out years and years and years ago about what they actually test for in our water system. They don't test for much. They're just looking for bacteria. They're not looking for drugs or chemicals and things that can leach into the system.
What about fluoride? I mean, I know this is kind of, I don't want to take you off where you're going, but fluoride seems to be the big thing in America, and there's a conspiracy that fluoride does things to people's heads, which I find to be BS. I don't have cavities because of it. That's all I'm trying to say.
It is a poison, all right, number one. In its concentrated form, it's a poison. Number two, it's never, ever been FDA approved.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Never. You know, along with MSG. MSG, when you go to a salad bar and it makes your nose run, makes my nose run. So I can tell when something has MSG in it. MSG has never been FDA approved, but they sprinkle it on everything. But back to fracking, it was about 3 years or so ago. We lived in Branson, and you know, I don't want to get disgusting, but we looked at it. I was looking at the toilet, all right, and
yeah,
the toilet tank just takes water, the same water you're drinking, and it fills itself up. Now, when I looked at that tank, the tank is clean, okay? But from flushing the toilet, because the water comes down from the rim of the bowl, okay, I started to see these lines coming down from the tank, and they were different colors. So, you know, Marcia would clean the toilets, of course, regularly. So sometimes I'd see an orange, and then I'd see a red, I'd see a blue. Most times it was black. And I pointed out to her, and I said, that's in our damn water supply. What the hell is happening? Well, soon after that, one of our counties, Rogersville, found out that they were contaminated. They had carcinogens. And basically, it was like the water's contaminated, drop the subject. All right, we're not going to talk about it. And we didn't hear any more about it. And I started thinking, what the hell is happening to our water? So I started researching. Now, it led to fracking, okay? And it started, I thought they were fracking in a couple western states because the first news I came across was in Montana, and they had killed this guy's herd of cattle. His herd of cattle started drinking the groundwater, and they fell over dead. And there was a picture of it, just all these dead cattle, and the guy lost $1 trillion. So I started thinking, what is fracking? Okay, it's really called fracturing. They shortened it to fracking. They dig down into the earth, and they're looking for natural gas. All right. The average well is 8,000 feet deep.
Yeah.
Think about that. 8,000 feet deep. All right. That's a mile and a half or more. Our average water tables for drinking water, the average in the United States is 200 to 300 feet.
Jesus.
Now it can go as deep as 1,000 in some states, but never more than 1,000. It's usually like in Illinois or Missouri. Our water table is 200 to 300 feet down. Okay, so fracturing goes beyond. It goes through and beyond the water table. Okay. What they do is they put in they can't examine it, of course, because they're up on the top of the ground, and much like Steve's picture, the thing's going 8,000 feet down. They hopefully put a cement casing on there that doesn't leak. If it leaks, they don't know about it, and they don't really give a shit, all right? Then they go ahead and they pump, okay, 80 to 300 tons of chemicals. Now imagine that. It's primarily mixed in water, and I forgot how many billion gallons it is. It's 4 to 5 million gallons of water, and 80 to 300 tons of chemicals are pumped into the ground.
Yeah.
Now, in our country, we're not asking anybody, what are those chemicals? What are you pumping into the ground? Okay. Well, quickly I found out that fracking isn't just happening in Montana. It's happening in Missouri. It's happening in Arkansas. It's happening in Iowa. It's happening all over the United States. And it produces a methane. I mean, there have been towns, and you can look this up. I mean, I'm going to highlight a lot of this stuff, and you guys can go after it.
We will, yeah.
There have been towns who, after a fracking has been done, they can light their drinking water on fire.
Yeah, I've got a couple of images.
I've seen something like that in Detroit, but it wasn't fracking. It was something similar with gas release. Some guy was lighting his thing on fire, and I was watching a straight line of fire in Detroit behind some slum house, and I'm going like, what the hell did I just witness?
There you go.
Well, the fact that, as Americans, citizens, the fact that we allow this, and we're allowing for it, we allow a whole lot of crap that Americans don't really care. Yeah, there's a good picture of it. But that can happen after fracking. You know, if the cement
that's just normal drinking tap water.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I have a question that ties into what you're saying. You know who I basically blame for this is the big businesses that are offering these millions of dollars to these poor people out there that might have a little bit of land, but they're going to take advantage of those people and start to frack their area, and that's where a lot of this issues coming into play and stuff like that, I think.
I blame government flat out, because a lot of it's done on government land, and our government is saying, okay, come in here, drill into the ground, pump a bunch of poison into our water table. We're not even going to ask you what you're doing, okay? If it was a terrorist organization, they could be pumping cyanide, for all we know. We're not asking them, and we're not making them disclose what the hell they're doing. That, to me, is an in-your-face. That's a crime.
Yeah.
That's not a conspiracy. That's an in-your-face crime.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just criminal. Now, to give you guys an idea, okay, not that anybody's ever told us, but certain scientists analyze some of these runoffs and some of the stuff that they've been able to capture through fracking, okay? Here's here's a few of the chemicals, all right? Methanol, okay? A chemical that's used in antifreeze,
Ooh.
vehicle fluid. It can cause headaches, fatigue, eye irritation, and can be very fatal in high doses. That's one of the chemicals that's in fracking, okay? Benzene, found in gasoline. Benzene has been shown to cause dizziness, weakness, chest constriction, and is a major contributor to a lifetime of a cancer risk. Benzene is a defined carcinogen, okay? Crystalline silica, flat out labeled carcinogen. It's harmful when inhaled. It leads to silicosis, whatever that is, and cancer.
Silicosis? Never did
Silicosis. Silicosis, or cancer. Yeah, and but that's in that chemical. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. North Texas Natural Gas says that they use 4 to 5 million gallons of water to frack one well. Okay. In there is naphthalene. Naphthalene is found in mothballs. It can affect your respiratory tract, irritation, nausea, vomiting, fever, death, and is a carcinogen. Diesel. Diesel is a labeled carcinogen. It's known to cause redness, burning, severe skin damage, and cancer.
Yeah.
There's one we all know about because they use it in the morgues. Formaldehyde. Okay, that's in this concoction. All right. 1 ounce of formaldehyde can cause death. So they're injecting formaldehyde, and in diluted forms can cause lung damage, nervous system disorders, reproductive problems in women, and it is a known carcinogen. Okay, lead is included in this concoction. Lead previously was used in lipsticks, actually. So women, no wonder they get crazy in PMS every now and then. I used to always wonder, but lipsticks, they don't do it anymore. So don't get mad at me, ladies. Those days are over.
Just to clarify, I don't actually know this guy. Okay.
Yeah, Marcia, get away from me with that knife. It's known to contaminate water supplies, and it's a carcinogen. It's found in paint and other construction materials, but it causes nervous system damage, fertility problems, and definitely some brain disorders. So I know a few people who've been affected by that, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Sulfuric acid. These are all chemicals. This is not like it's 1 or 2 of these might be in there. These are all in there plus more, all right?
Plus more.
Sulfuric acid is found in lead. It's found in batteries. All right.
Yeah.
A lethal dose to a human is 1 teaspoonful. It is classified as a probable carcinogen. I would kind of think so, but if you're dead, you don't give a crap. If you took the teaspoonful. The fracking, they haven't isolated the amounts, but there's kerosene. There's hydrofluoric acid and boric acid. Doctors, EPA, activists around the nation are protesting the healthcare threatening nature of hydraulic fracking.
Yeah.
Now, Cornell University did a study, and they found dozens of cases of illness, death, and reproductive issues, but not only in humans. Cows, horses, goats, llamas, chickens, dogs, cats, fish, birds, and other wildlife. So last year in Arkansas, when about 10,000 birds hit the ground in a square acre, you kind of know where they drank the water. They drank some water, and here in Missouri,
followed by I don't know, like 1 million fish all dead all at once appeared in a harbor.
We've had some of those, but here in Missouri, we had 2 different creeks. One of them turned blood red.
Yeah.
And that was typically red is high bacteria. but one of them turned crystalline blue. It went from being creek clear water to being blue. And, they showed it on the news, and then what happens is someone in the upper media says, hey, we're not going to report on this, and you don't hear any more.
Yeah.
So I don't know when it went back to being clear. But it makes me fearful. I mean, my children come over, and they, Kurt's been in Missouri.
Yes.
We've got wonderful rivers and creeks, and my kids go kayaking, and
beautiful state.
I tell them, stay the hell out of the water. I'm fearful, and yeah, my daughter laughs at me because she thinks I am a little bit OC, so I don't have to wash my hands 10 times in a row. But I have a thing in my mind where I have to have certain things that I have to have.
Yeah.
So in my garage is always at least 10 cases of water. And if I go below 10 cases, I start to freak out, and then my children make fun of me.
That's definitely OCD, not it.
So there's certain things I have to have, and water is one of them. I will never drink tap water, and I believe, we're being dosed. And when I'm out in public and the subject of fracking comes up and people just yawn, like, oh, what are we going to do about it? It's like,
well,
you better figure it out. I mean, you better figure it out.
It's definitely reached over this side of the pond. If I just bring up latest stories on fracking over here, it's a bit of a sore subject over here as regards to protests and stuff like that. But as you can see from this story I've got here, it was actually being passed. The story's actually being passed in North Yorkshire. Apply for a license for fracking.
Yeah, no, I love the Guardian.
That's
I love the BBC.
Guardian.
I love the BBC because
back in September of last year, it was the North Sea actually proposed to do some fracking under the North Sea as well, which is really controversial.
Well, see, at least they're not doing it in land. What they're doing here is they're cracking the Earth's crust.
Yeah.
So if you take a state like Oklahoma, in the last decade, aside from the last couple of years, let's say, Oklahoma had half a dozen tremors in the decade.
Yeah.
Now with fracking, they had over 100. And now they're having actual earthquakes, so they're no longer tremors.
Yeah, there was I remember some sort of test was done over here for the earthquake theory on it, and they did actually find that it does cause small tremors, earthquakes. Over here, ranging from magnitude 2 to 4, something like that.
Well, in the last couple of years, Arkansas, right below us here, Missouri, has had 800.
800.
800. And we had no history of that before. And, being in my OC condition, when we first moved to Missouri 15 years ago, I had a brick house.
Yeah.
And the insurance man came over, and I told him I wanted it insured. And my kids were listening, and I said, I want earthquake insurance. And my kids just went wild laughing their ass off. They said, Papa, there's no earthquakes in Missouri. And I said, well, the New Madrid Fault is over on the other side. It could happen. The last time there was a good one, it rang the bells in Philadelphia. So I'm like a worst-case planner. Well, now we've had tremors in Springfield since the fracking.
Yeah.
And we're allowing people to destroy us, and just I thank you, Steve, because you really organized this program, and it was nice that you let me know what the agenda was.
Yeah.
Sometimes you go on a show, and it's sort of like whatever is brought up, you talk about. You allowed me to talk about a couple subjects, and you give me the time, and you had a schedule. And you did just a stellar job, so I thank you for that.
Oh, it's a complete pleasure. I just thought I wanted to give you the platform to get, especially your fracking information, to get it out there for people to take on board. That this is not just something to put to one side. This is something to take serious concerning because it's got serious repercussions.
Well, you guys still have some. I don't want to say free press, but I rely on the Guardian and I rely on BBC. The Chicago black site was actually exposed by the Guardian.
Yeah,
Now,
that's
people,
right.
yeah, I mean, it wasn't going to, even though it was well known, you wouldn't have got anybody in Chicago to write about it because, they would be afraid they'd wind up there, okay? But the BBC and the Guardian actually was the first that they printed about the Chicago black site and the possibility of torture and even murder
Yeah.
that had gone on there.
But
And
I know.
if you guys get excited over fracking, I mean, good for you, because our population is like a bunch of goddamn gerbils.
Well, it's not going anywhere at the minute. I mean, I don't know exactly what the situation is as regards to how the government stands on it, but I do know that the recent after the recent elections, the Tory government over here has actually approved or opposed another bill which is getting pushed through for it, so it's in support of fracking. So on that respect, it looks like it's going to go ahead regardless of the protest and regardless of the implications. So it looks like we're not going to be able to win that fight either, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and it's insane. It's just insane that they can inject anything they want. Possibly, well, there's no more possibly here in the United States. We have counties here in Missouri where their water is polluted. Okay, it's tainted. It's tainted with carcinogens. Not a damn thing they can do about it. The only thing they can do is not talk about it. And that's basically the position that our country is taking on it. Is
There,
Sorry,
but,
Kirkle.
I just want to follow with Ed what he's saying. There are some towns, and I'm not in Oklahoma, that are just, they're ghost towns, and you look at the water, and it was all based on mining and stuff like that, partially fracking. I mean, you only have, nothing exists in these towns anymore. You might have one person living there, and that's it. It's just the freakiest thing to look at.
well, we had it was 2 years ago. We had a farmer who lost his herd of cattle here in Missouri,
Mm-hmm.
and they showed it. And typically in Missouri, if they show animals, it's typically because of abuse.
Mm-hmm.
People have animals, they don't feed them, and they're confiscated. Puppy farms, puppy mills are like a dime a dozen here. It's horrible. But here, this guy's cattle just dropped over dead, and it was fracking. And our news media immediately dropped it. And I wrote, I had a friend who he was an anchor for the late night news, and he made some comments about the reasons this possibly could have happened, which were just hysterical. So I wrote him and I said, how the hell did you not keep from laughing when you presented that bullshit to the public? And he said, Ed, he said, whatever comes up on the teleprompter,
That's what I said.
He said, I have to.
I gotta say it. It's one of those, or I don't pay my bills this month. It's like one of those things.
Yeah, you can't blame him because he's got to feed his family. But
Yeah.
the days of the true, I mean, I laugh when I go back to my youth. People can, laugh at Geraldo, let's say, because he's a pretty funny guy now. But in his youth, he was a true investigative reporter. He would take on subjects that the public would never hear of otherwise. And I mean, he got punched, he got hit with chairs, he got in fist fights. He would do anything. He'd meet these people at the door when they came out in the morning and say, "What's with this? What you're doing over here?" And we don't have investigative reporters any longer here in the United States.
Not at all.
There are no journalists. And I can tell you right now, I'm getting my new book. Okay, True Haunting 2 is coming out, and I self-publish because I like self-publishing because there's no restrictions.
Yeah.
I'm kind of funny. I want it my way. Okay, they can fix my grammar. They can do what they want. They can't change my story. They can't add to it. But now I'm finding out that my publisher has been bought out by a larger publisher, and all of a sudden they're going to put restrictions on what I can publish, and ask me for certain types of things. The controls are now. The days of free self-publishing are disappearing. Is what I'm saying. They're going to start to control self-publishing. Soon there'll be nowhere for people to go to get honest news.
So do you reckon it's another way of them to trying to control on the population? If you like.
Yeah, Stephen. Guess what? You're next.
Oh,
Internet radio will be the last frontier that they attack, when they start to censor your subject matter.
Yeah.
Or interrupt you. All of a sudden, you're gonna have a power interruption in the middle of your show.
I can see that happening. I can see that one definitely going down.
Yeah, they're out to control everything, and you can't get honest news. But I think in the United States, I truly believe this, that we're under definite mind control.
Yeah.
I believe, because people are too apathetic about subjects that should enrage them. It should make them angry. That Obama can take their bank accounts, that he can relocate and take your house. That'll be the day. And everybody just sort of says, okay. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
It's already
down the population.
They're going to pack their bags and go. After a lifetime worth of work building their house. If I go back to the '60s, we certainly wouldn't have taken that shit. There'd be no way. I wouldn't have wanted to been the president that would have signed an executive order like that, whether it would have been Johnson or Nixon or even Kennedy.
Yeah.
He would have had such a backlash; it would have been incredible. But we just accept it. We accept his 20 vacations. We accept the fact that he can stop commerce. We accept the fact that he can stop banking. He can take our homes. He can relocate us. All by executive order. And I wrote Congress, and I told them, what the hell do we need you for? If this stuff isn't coming to a vote, how much more important can you get than someone taking all of your assets? If that isn't worthy of coming to a vote, and you're letting this guy sign it on a Saturday over breakfast, what the hell good are you? What the hell good is our Congress?
Yeah.
I get angry, and everybody else around me is sort of like, okay, that's the way it is. And to me, I just always turn to Marcia, and I look at her, and I say, they drank the water. They're drinking the water.
Okay, we'll swiftly moving on. Kate, I know you wanted to bring up something on, what was it, Denver International Airport?
Yeah,
Do you want to go with that?
Yeah, we'll go with this real quick. You guys are all familiar with the new Denver International Airport, built in, I think, '95. Supposedly, it's got all sorts of conspiracies. When doing research on it, I was laughing by the time I finished up with what really was going on there. Everybody's saying, oh, it's 53 square miles, and then you could see this a Nazi swastika from the sky. Yeah. But first off, they don't realize that the swastika was a magic symbol. It wasn't turned until Hitler got it. It was Hitler's way of doing it. This is not a turned one. And the lady they interviewed about it goes, they don't talk about the 8 other runways we're building right now, which will not look like swastikas when you're looking out there. They talk about underneath how they built this airport, and they had this really cool underneath tunnel system. And it was rumored that it would go to NORAD, should there be a thing. But really what it was a total... I'm not going to cuss on this show. I'm such cussing out of it anyway. It was a clusterfuck. I'll just keep it at that, because they built this system to take all our stuff from one airplane to another, underneath, to make it a lot faster, and it didn't work. Bottom line, it bombed out. It didn't work, and they were taking tours of. They were doing tours of underneath, and the guy was asking all these conspiracy questions, and they had a bunch of people just sitting there laughing. Like the best one is the painting on the wall where they got the guy that it looks like a Nazi, and then you got a little crying lady. It looks like a crying lady with a baby.
The Orioles and stuff. Yeah.
It's backwards. You're looking at it backwards. If you look at it with all the little kids that are smiling and happy, then you look down and you see the dead Nazi. It's about peace overcoming this supposed Nazi. And then they had the God, what was the other one? The funniest one had me dying was not the New World Order, but the New World Airport thing.
All
that was was, that was put down there by a Mason. George Washington was a Mason. He put the cornerstone for the White House down. It was just put down there before it was even built, just so these people could say, hey, let's do this with the airport, or let's do that with the airport. It was nothing really as serious as people take it. I mean, so I don't know, but one thing I could not come up with, was it was buried on Native American soil. Yeah, that's the one that it never existed. That doesn't exist. That does not exist.
This one, yeah.
Stone, yeah, but it does not exist. That they said that doesn't even exist. That was built in then, because Denver's actually, it's about 25 miles from the actual city itself. I've flown into Denver Airport. I've sat and had to drive through traffic at 3 a.m. to get there, and they have another airport that's 5 miles from there that was built in, like, I think, 1929. But there's still, like, but this issue with the Native Americans has me kind of going like this, because supposedly it's cursed because it's built on Native American soil, Native American ground. Now, I wish I could find more information about that, because I've heard it in multiple places. I've read about it, but I think a lot of the Denver stuff, I came to the conclusion, conspiracy theory, man, I'm flushing that one down the toilet. I'll be honest about it.
Yeah.
It's not.
I tend to agree with you on that one myself. I looked into it myself a long time ago, actually. I suppose it raised a few eyebrows when you went like so many levels underground for an airport. Maybe 2 levels underground, but what was it, 7 levels they've got there or something like that?
No, they only have one to two.
They only have one. Oh, there you go. That's even that.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, there's a show. I was watching a documentary on it the other day.
Yeah.
Where they got that guy who walks around, who goes around to check out rune stones all around the world, and he'll go check things. Yeah, he was there. He was trying to dig it up, trying to figure out, because there's a conspiracy guy who was he wasn't a conspiracy theorist. He was called himself the conspiracy factualist. Now come on. Yeah, this guy's a piece of work. I was laughing though, but it was a great show. And they were digging up dirt to see if it still could be the same kind of dirt that the airport's built on. And there's all sorts of theories. And
you got to remember they legalized marijuana there. So
I forgot that too. Yeah.
That could be a factor, Yeah. They're seeing swastikas everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, but honestly, I'd shoot that down. I'd shoot that down with the surface-to-air missile. That one's not that one to me as a conspiracy. Nah, I'll call BS on it. If somebody wants to hit me up later, please do. I'll tell you what I think. I'll respect what you think.
We'll put it respectfully this way. I totally agree with you, but we'll put it respectfully this way. If you can convince us otherwise, then please do.
Please do, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because if show us the proof. If it's 6 levels deep underground with secret military alien bases or something stupid, then show us an alien. Give us the proof, and we'll look into it definitely. But yeah, I totally agree with you on that one.
To me, there are certain things that our government, any government, should do. Okay, in Springfield here, we've got an underground train.
Yeah.
Now, I only know this because of an accident. I found out. It's not public knowledge. I believe the train goes to Kansas City, totally underground.
Yeah.
It's a method for the military to do things, and the government has to be allowed to do that and protect themselves. And during 9/11, the president's Air Force One landed in Kansas City.
That's right.
I knew that he was in Springfield. He took that underground train because one of our safest compounds is our federal compound here in the city.
Yeah.
I don't know how many stories it goes down. In one of my books, I put 21, but I don't know. It may go deeper than that, But government should be able to do things in a clandestine manner, because you can't have the public knowing everything. Yeah, and then certain things. I mean, someday you'll probably take on the alien thing, and
actually,
my feeling is, that there are certain things that if you told the public, aliens are coming here, they're different sizes, they got different capabilities, they got technology well beyond ours, and we can't do shit about it. All right.
Yeah.
Well, everybody's going to be buying anti-aircraft guns to protect themselves. You'd create
I'll buy Steve a Nerf gun because he can't have a real gun.
And
He's got to shoot it down with a Nerf gun.
It's much like the Ebola. When Ebola hit here, they already declared a decade ago that Ebola can be passed airborne. It's an airborne disease.
I read that as well, actually, yeah.
But they didn't tell. That's not what they told the public here. It only passed through bodily fluids. Blah 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 blah. If it was an airborne disease, there would have been panic, mass panic. And so certain things the government does, you don't like it, but you kind of realize that they have to.
Yeah, I totally agree. Switching back to the alien UFO agenda, I'll just say this about it. Area 51, for example, okay, all right, yeah, they don't acknowledge it's still there, or maybe they do now these days, I'm not really sure, but I totally agree with what Ed is saying in the sense that they need top secret stuff, covert stuff, because they need to develop these new weapons and new stuff like that for obvious reasons, for protecting the country and stuff like that for themselves or whatever, in case in the future we do go to, World War X or whatever it is, World War II, and they need to do that. And they have the right to do it in top secret and develop these new technologies and whatever, especially like in Area 51, for instance, it's probably just a top secret testing ground for new aircraft and stuff like that. But as we on the side of alien abductions and stuff like that, there's some amazing stories out there. Some of them are crazy, I'll be honest with you. Some of them are absolutely nuts. But I don't know what my take is on that one at the moment. I'll be honest with you.
Steve, as a host, I kind of pity you because
I know. I pity myself.
I've been offered a number of radio gigs to do a show, but there's certain things I can't take. All right.
Yeah.
And I do believe that there's some substance in the alien discussion, but whenever someone talks about probing, all right, I think that they have some kind of probing fetish because these aliens would have technology. I mean, if we got MRIs,
One of the things that I always think about is like, why would they come all this way? Stick a silver rod straight up your fucking ass, why would they do that? But we've just got a questionnaire off Aaron again. He's hit the nail on the head. So all three of them.
Aaron loves probing. Aaron would be the first if alien came to probe. Bent over a couch with ankles on.
Anyway, when you're done, he says, "Do you think aliens already walk among us?" Personally, I think they do. Well, I'll go first on this one, and then I'll pass it to you two. On a biggest picture sort of scale, yeah, we are aliens because we're living on a planet that spins in space. So, in that respect, I suppose they do, but they're just human. There's certainly no walking lizards going to Tesco's or something over here, or going to, it's ridiculous, But I don't think there's. We haven't been visited yet properly. I don't think. I just don't think it's happened yet myself. So, over to you, Kurt, on that one.
Yeah,
just before you start, Aaron says, "Watch your back on Sunday."
His back will already be bent over, so I'm not worried about it.
But anyway,
don't worry, Aaron. Somebody will be wearing a condom. Okay. But no, when you think about it, you got reptilians. What do you got? Grays. You got blues. You got almost every color under the rainbow. You know what I'm talking about when they talk about, I don't know. I don't buy it. I don't believe in UFOs. I've always been a non-believer in UFOs. But at the same time, if you ask me about multiple dimensions, I might be like, well, yeah, there could be multiple dimensions. But, I mean, if you can fly from this point to this point that fast, what do you want from us? I mean, honestly, unless you got lost, there was like some bad map reader on the flight.
No, they got a probing fetish.
They got a probing. They know. God, like humans. Humans love to be probed. But it's just weird, though. It's just, I don't know. I don't buy it. Like, going back to Area 51, and plus other places in Britain too, I'm sure that it's just for it's Area 51 is it's where they test their fighter pilots, their planes. They test these new weapons.
Yeah.
And they don't, and they need that. Where Ed was saying, they need that in a sense, in order to. The fact is, first off, if we're going to go to war according to the introduction with the reading with China or Russia. Yeah. There are so many weapons out there we don't know exist.
Exactly.
That exist.
I don't know whether you've seen the Zero Dark 30 film, the one about.
Yeah, I saw it. I like that. Yeah.
Where they had the top secret stealth Black Hawks. They were stationed at Area 51. It was nicely slipped in towards the end of the film, I thought, but that's what they do. The stealth fighter, the F-117 in the first Gulf War, was from Area 51. That's where they developed it. That's where they developed the weapons and stuff like that.
Yeah, the government is far beyond our imagination. Actually, what they have. I mean, we think that all of a sudden we developed, call tracing and stuff on our telephones. They've had that for years. They wanted the public to believe that the phones couldn't be traced, but they had caller ID and all that stuff long before we ever knew about it. And they have to do that way. With regards to aliens, my feeling is yes, they've interfaced with us in some ways, because not based on Area 51 or anything, but based on ancient technologies. If you see what the Mayans did and what the Egyptians did, there's no explanation for how the hell they built some of the things that they have. And if you check anthropologists, you're going to see that their collection of skulls, there's an unusual number of skulls that are just not human. They're humanoid in that they're a skull, but they're either huge, they have bigger eye sockets. That there have been things found that are just not human.
You just can't explain them.
So I don't know that aliens come down and probe us every now and then or anything like that. But somehow
that's where it flips me. The old UFO agenda and the aliens and so. I reckon it's happened, but it's happened maybe thousands of years ago, 2, maybe 3, 4,000 years ago, whatever. And you're right, Ed. You see it in the ancient temples that are still there, the ancient scripture, what they write about, all these different cultures from around the planet who supposedly didn't even know each other existed, but yet they're all talking about the same sort of thing. Might interpret it slightly different, but it's the same thing. Do you know what I mean? And that's where it flips me. So
some of the hieroglyphics and drawings they wrote, they actually had described things and drew them.
Yeah.
That they would have no reason to do. They couldn't, how would they have drawn an airplane or something with wings or a man behind a console? So can I take 1 second? I want to say hello to Avriel Burns.
Yeah.
And to Mary and Scott Nielsen in Scotland.
In Scotland.
And then to Mandy Holland and to Jules and Dave McClelland in the UK. Jules and Dave, they're rescue people, and they've rescued a number of dogs.
No,
and
good for them.
They're kind, wonderful people. So I hope you guys are listening, and God bless you all. That's it. That's all I had to say.
Thanks for that.
And don't get probed, whatever you
do. Right, so we're going to take a questions if there's any from the chat room. Mo, if you're watching or listening. Take that as a no. No? Well, I think that just about wraps it up then, boys. I think it's been fun, myself.
Great show.
I made up we got it off the ground at last. I'm definitely looking forward to the next one.
Oh, yeah.
Steve, I love the way you handled the whole show from the schedule to the topics. It was very organized.
Perfect. He did didn't he do a great job?
Especially
when he told me, he goes, well, I changed it up a little bit, so automatically I went to my email account and I'm reading it. I'm going boom, 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 and it made it easier for me to talk to him about the intro. Well, what do you think I should do here? I was going back and forth because I've done a million intros on Blog Talk. Easy, it's nothing. But when you're on live and you're looking at everybody, it's a whole nother feel to it, and you did a great job, Steve.
Cheers,
You
man.
too,
I couldn't
Ed.
listen. As much as I appreciate the plaudits, I couldn't have done it without you guys anyway, and the ones in the background that no one can see, the likes of Mo and Aaron and stuff like that. But I'm definitely
the Phantom Mo.
Phantom Mo. Yeah. But I'm definitely looking forward to the next show. I don't know when that's going to be at the moment, but we will sort something out in the next week or two. Hopefully, we're talking possibly every 2 to 3 weeks. We've got a couple. We've spoken about a couple of subjects, haven't we? What we wanted to discuss. But we could take up a whole show. So.
Who we did forget to bring up, and even though he's going to get a kick in the dick whenever I meet him, it's going to be Aaron O'Rourke, because Aaron's been hanging out in the shadows lately. But Aaron produces when he's on air, and whatever Aaron does, he does produce. And Steve even said you're going to get a kick in the dick from Steve too. Because Steve said he had his field nose on. And he says he likes picking on little midgets that think they're Irish. So I don't know.
on that note, no. But anyway, it's been great. I'm happy with the way it went. It's just amazing. I'm gonna sort out the next show, which is gonna be hopefully like 3 weeks time or something like that, with a topic. And Ed, you're more than welcome to come back on that one as well, mate, if you want to.
All the ladies who I insulted with the lipstick thing, you can reach me at www.edwinbecker.com, and I'll apologize.
All right. So that apart from that, thanks a lot for coming on.
Yeah, and, thanks Ed, so much, man.
You're welcome. It was an honor being on the first show, so thank you.
We'll sort something out and get the next show up and running. Thanks to everyone who's watched in the chat room and stuff like that. Thanks to everyone who hasn't, because you don't know what you missed. And we'll see you all again soon. Thanks a lot.
All right.